I promised over the summer to post one or two brief videos that explain some of the vision and values behind how we are working into the nations from here at New Life in East Grinstead. One of the key models that we're following is what I would call a new apostolic model over and above the old missionary style model for working into other nations. In the old model, groups like us would send families or individuals to far-flung places. They'd be men and women full of faith, of great admiration for them, called by God, and they would work often out of touch for a long time without any of the modern devices that we now have, and they would seek to establish a work over a long period of time with a view to a fruitful church plant becoming established. However, there are a number of problems with that. The first is that it's a totally one-way process. Oftentimes we found now, particularly as we try and unpick some of those old models, that it's become that it's developed an unhealthy dependency on the sending church or the sending missionary group. In some cases, and working into some cultures, it's merely perpetuated a kind of colonial attitude whereby we have all the power and the authority and they're just receiving with their begging bowls. Under the old missionary model, we always remain as outsiders. We never really engage with the local culture, and when the missionary or the support goes from the local church in the UK, then oftentimes the work in the nation will fall away because it hasn't really engaged with the local community in any way. And of course, the other big problem for us as churches is that such a work never really engages the local church on the ground in the UK in any meaningful way. For missions in the 21st century, we're discovering that it's going to be more about apostolic partnerships than about the old missionary model. We've been asking the question over the last couple of years as our work into Italy has increased. What's the best way to reach Italians and to plant New Testament churches in Italy? Well, probably the best way is not to send groups of men and women that are like me from the UK that have to spend years learning the language and trying to understand the culture and trying to work step by step, slowly. Obviously, where people are called, we want to invest and send them. But on the whole, I don't know that that is going to be our primary strategy. What we're discovering is that a better way is to identify and to recognise and to affirm with dignity those who are already operating in that way in these nations, in this case in Italy, to come alongside them, to help those that already share a similar passion and similar vision and values for New Testament churches, to help them lay foundations, to father the work, as it were, certainly to befriend them. Oftentimes they're very lonely, very isolated in the places that they're working. Much more in line, this model, with the way that Paul and Barnabas worked into and out of their Antioch base in Acts 13. And of course, instead of some of the problems from the old missionary model, we find that this is a very fruitful way of operating. Straight away, it's two-way, it's mutual. It's not all about us having the answers and them being the receivers. It's definitely a two-way process. There's a real interdependency that comes from that. Obviously, for us, we learn and understand and feel our way into understanding their culture far more ably. For them, as the local church, they're already and immediately embedded in their local culture. It's not for them taking 5 years to make friends and to learn language and to earn trust amongst their neighbours. These guys have lived and worked and grown up all their lives in the cities that they're working in. Obviously, our main aim is not to do it for them. In an apostolic model where we're seeking to come alongside and father, we're not going to do it for them. They are doing it for themselves and for their nation. And so our main role is to help them to grow up, just as parents help children to grow up so they can stand on their own and live in the world, to bring them into maturity, to see them grow in strength and to flourish, to help them put eldership teams in place, to enable them to stand on their own without financial support so they can be self-sufficient with simple models that continue to grow and spread and multiply across their nation. Obviously, some of the financial stuff touches on my previous video that I put up last month. Finally, we're finding that this model is a way that is going to help us to engage our local church, the ordinary men and women that fill our churches, to really engage them meaningfully in this work in the nations, a convergence of their skills and their vocations that begin to serve and meet the needs in the countries that we're working into. And perhaps next time I'll post a little example about how that's already working into Italy. Thanks for listening.